First of all, hello, I'm Kim Frachek. I work for Sane Energy Project and I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. I'm just going to go through our agenda for tonight. We're going to talk about why we are fighting, and then we're going to introduce our amazing bill sponsors. We're going to celebrate our movement wins to get fossil fuels out of buildings. We're going to talk about our 2023 legislative package and the work that we are going to be doing, the timeline and our strategy. And then we're going to talk about logistics for the amazing Rally and Lobby Day on January 24th in Albany, or on Zoom for those of you who can't join us in Albany. And we're going to talk about how we're going to build our movement and build our power. So first of all, just why we're fighting. So fracked gas, like many of us at this meeting, have been fighting fracked gas for a number of years. Behind here is a giant map of the fracked gas infrastructure that is crossing New York State that we must definitely put an end to. We know that fracking is an insult to, communities, our environment. It harms many communities. It keeps energy really expensive, leaning on the fossil fuel industry. It destroys our health, and it keeps our labor force locked into a very unhealthy jobs and economic market. And we know that buildings are the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels. So that's why we are focused on kicking fossil fuels out of buildings. And I'm going to go and start introducing our amazing legislative rock stars that are here to talk about the bills that we are going to be working for this year.
Welcome Assembly Member Pat Fahey to the group, and she is the prime sponsor of the Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act, which is coming to us this year with a brand new name, the New York Heat Act, Home Energy Affordable Transition Act. So let's go to Assemblywoman Fahey.
One, thank you to everyone for being here, and two, thank you for the support. It looks like as of the state of the state, we are definitely off to the races again. You know what we were calling the Gas Transition Planning Act. We are sponsoring that bill with Senator Krueger, and so I'm afraid I still have the old name on it. So my apologies. You're again 2 steps ahead of me. That bill was also included in the budget last year, but we really wanted to pair them because we do think it's just so important. And while the Kavanaugh-Gallagher bill about ending the gas hookups for new construction has gotten a lot of attention, in some ways, this one I feel like almost been pleasantly surprised, because I feel like this one has not gotten a lot of arrows targeted at it, yet it also has some very serious changes that will help us meet these ambitious goals that we support, very much support. So this bill requires the PSC, the Public Service Commission, to essentially take the work of the commission and of the scoping, the Climate Action Council, and merge that with the goals. So essentially, well, one of the most significant pieces of it is that they have to have a plan. It directs the PSC, the Public Service Commission, to establish a plan to detransition gas usage from our building stock. That does include, meaning the existing building stock. It also eliminates the automatic, one of the things that I guess has been more controversial, depending on who you're talking to, but one that certainly has support. And something I think is important is that it ends this automatic right to a gas hookup with new construction. But I represent Albany. I live here in the city of Albany. But I also represent 3 towns now, 2 as of January 1st, and that's Guilderland and the town of New Scotland. When a development goes in, and they still end up with a lot of developments, there's this automatic right, if you will, to a gas hookup, and this would end that for anything 100 foot, 100 feet. I think is the marker there. So that's also another change. The bottom line is, let me just speak more globally, because again, the two bills get aligned a lot, and I certainly have been working with Senator Kruger and Emily Gallagher on their bill. The bottom line is all of this, along with the scoping plan that has just been issued by the Climate Action Council, they're all moving us to meet these goals. And just since the state of the state, at the same time the state of the state was announced, evidently the Biden administration had made comments about gas stoves, and we all saw the report coming out that those who have gas stoves in their homes their children have higher rates of asthma. So all of a sudden we've created there's been a bit of a political firestorm in the last couple of days, no pun intended, about gas stoves. And I think we just really have to get a little smarter on how we're packaging these bills such that we don't scare people. Neither of these bills deal with gas stoves, but now the whole issue is getting lumped together. We have to make sure that we still focus on doing all we can to incentivize these transitions and provide whether direct incentives through grants or tax credits or what have you. But the more we move toward this, the more affordable it becomes, such as electric cars. There used to be a dramatic difference. That difference is equaling out a little bit more. We still have a ways to go, of course, but thank you for your advocacy. And again, I think right now, at least in the last 48 hours, I feel like we've just got to allay fears. And that's the critical thing. We just, we call it smart energy. Sometimes we've got to be smart about how we advocate and allay those fears and keep moving forward. And I'm incredibly encouraged.
You're not scared if you're not. So
that's great. That's great. Okay. Thank you to everybody on the call for all of your work.
I'm
yes.
so sorry to cut you off. Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I really want to follow up with you.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
I know that you're organizing a tour of some heat pump powered buildings in Albany. We're helping with that too. So
thank you.
Stay in touch, and just so appreciate you making the time for us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me and accommodating me a couple of minutes late. Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
Great to see you, Pat.
I'll stay on. I'm just going to turn my camera off so I can eat dinner.
Thank you. All right. Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce State Senator Brian Kavanaugh from New York City. And, and he's going to talk about his bill, the All Electric Building Act. So please take it away.
Yeah, no, it's really great to be with all of you all tonight and see such a big group. We really have come a long way. This bill, we originally introduced it in 2021. We've had, since then, of course, the city of New York has taken this important step. But I really do think this is the year to get this done. The governor, has highlighted it in her initial address. I think that I think we still have some differences of opinion about what constitutes a bigger building or a smaller building and some of the timeframes. But honestly, when I first introduced this, I thought of this is the low-hanging fruit. We could at least, if the old saying goes, if you're in a hole, you stop digging. The idea, of course, that we're still building structures that are going to require fossil fuels for some long duration into the future is, given where we are with, climate, just an obviously terrible idea. I would have thought by now that we get this done and we're shifting to the question of how to, retrofit and, change out all the things we're going to need to change out to stop, destroying the habitability of the planet we live on. But here we are. I do think this is a year now where we can both get something like the All Electric Building Act done, not something like it, get that bill done, and also, start talking about what it's going to take to implement the rest of it. We have a hearing I think the first Senate hearing of the year. Oh, this it's the second Senate hearing of the year because the first one will be about a hearing of the Judiciary Committee about a certain judge nominee on Wednesday. But we're doing a hearing the next Thursday in Albany on the implementation of the scoping plan. I expect all electric building to be a big part of that conversation. But on all fronts, making sure we're putting the mandates in place, making sure people are not, putting infrastructure in place that no longer makes sense, and figuring out a fund transition that is both fast enough and just as it needs to be. I think is something that more and more people are going to be willing and able to prioritize this year. Certainly in my House in the Senate Democratic majority, but also I think with great leaders like Senator Fahey and Senator Gallagher, who's our sponsor of the Electric Building Act, and many others. It's going to be a big year. So it's really exciting to be with all of you to kick this off, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you.
Thank you so much, Senator Kavanaugh. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here. You can see, I think we could take the spotlight off and you can see all of the advocates who are joining tonight. They're so delighted to have our sponsors here to talk about the importance of these bills. We have just a huge number of people from East Hampton to Buffalo. So
Yeah.
got a broad and deep coalition of dedicated folks who are going to help us get this in the budget, right? We're gonna win this by March. So
I would say, yeah, what I'm actually, the way I'm putting it is like, as soon as, I don't even know if we need to wait till March 31st, but we like certainly no later than the budget. And I think the budget can be a useful tool, but this bill is pending in the Senate Housing Committee, and it is my hope that we can move it as rapidly as possible toward a bill that we can then send to the governor's desk and have her sign. So I'm very eager to do that. But certainly, yeah, it is if not in the budget, if not by the budget, then in the budget.
Awesome. Well, as we it can't wait. So we're excited. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we're going to just get on with our agenda. Thanks again to the lawmakers for spending time. We know you have a very, very full schedule. So, we have 3 bills in our package, and we have 2 of our prime sponsors tonight. So let me get back to the agenda. We are going to talk about what we won last year. So we advocated directly with the governor's office and got her to pledge to make 2 million all electric or electric ready homes by 2030 in her State of the State Blue Book, as well as many other building decarbonization pledges. She wrote a special memo after a lot of advocacy. We got several pieces of important legislation that we advocated for signed into law: the boring but very important codes and standards bill, the geothermal tax credit. So anyone who's putting in geothermal now will get an additional New York State tax credit of $5,000. The Thermal Energy Networks law, which is how we can provide clean heat pump, renewable heat to whole neighborhoods and cities eventually, and is a bill that the unions are super excited about, the building trades. And we have you, the 115 of you who are here with us tonight, and many more who have advocated in every part of the state with our lawmakers, as well as more than 200 organizations supporting this agenda. So that's very exciting. Next slide. So then at the same time, the Climate Action Council was going through their deliberations. Many of you, maybe all of you, weighed in on that with both written and verbal comments. I heard comment after comment of people across the state saying we need heat pumps. And the Climate Action Council listened. They basically said, we're going to electrify our buildings. That is the pathway we're going with. We're not going with hydrogen. We're not going with RNG. We're going to reject false solutions. And we are going to make sure that this transition to efficient heat pump heating is affordable and equitable. So they have heard us loud and clear. They put it in the final plan. If you want to read it, we can put a link to the climate action plan, but this is the official policy of New York State now. And it's very, very groundbreaking and exciting. Next slide. But that's not all. The momentum keeps building, and we were delighted this week to hear Governor Hochul's State of the State, where she actually said out loud that we were going to stop putting fossil fuel hookups in new buildings. We were going to stop replacing outdated appliances at the end of their life with fossil fuel appliances, and that she linked for the first time the climate agenda on the building side with the economy and with health. So this is very, very exciting. That means our voices are being heard in Albany, and she is saying the words that we are asking her to say. And next, we need to work together to turn that from words into actual action. So next slide. So all these wins are because of your work, everybody on this call, and the people that you've been working with locally and in Albany have made all this happen. And a few years ago, the idea that New York State's official policy was going to be heat pumps in every building was something we were just dreaming of. And here we are today. So this is incredible work, incredible momentum. And I think we just have a tidal wave of power we're building behind these important climate solutions pathways that we just can't be defeated now. It's inevitable, but we have to make it happen this year. So I think that's it for me, and I'm turning it over to Jessica Agelet to walk us through the legislative package for 2023.
Great, thank you so much, Lisa. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Agelet. I'm the Executive Director of Alliance for a Green Economy. I'm so excited to see so many of you tonight on the line, working with us to get this done in the 2023 legislative session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what our package is that we're going to be talking about this session. And you've heard a little bit about it already from some of the bill sponsors tonight. But we've put together a package that we think is, comprehensively fits together multiple pieces of legislation and funding to make it possible to electrify buildings and carry forth on this climate plan. So we are going to make sure that people can afford to electrify their buildings, and that people who are the most vulnerable in the state are getting the support they need and the jobs that come with the electrification and weatherization agenda. And that's what the Energy Efficiency, Equity, and Jobs Act is all about. It makes sure that energy efficiency retrofits get to where they're most needed in low-income communities and communities of color. And it allows NYSERDA to fund some of the prerequisite work that needs to happen to break down the barriers to weatherization, like mold and lead remediation, electric upgrades, and other deferred maintenance issues that we see in so many people's homes. We need to make sure that that can get funded. We also, as Senator Kavanaugh was just talking about, will be pushing again for the All Electric Building Act, which will make sure that no new construction is happening with fossil fuels anymore. And the timeline for this is smaller buildings starting in 2024 and larger buildings in 2027. We are also pushing for what is now being called the New York Home Energy Equitable Transition Act, the New York Heat Act. And this is going to eliminate all the subsidies that we're all paying right now on our energy bills to hook new people up to the gas system. Even in 2023, we're all paying to hook thousands of new customers up to the gas system and to give them those hookups for free. And we need to eliminate those subsidies. And we also need to eliminate the absolute right for people to hold on to their gas, even when we have alternatives we can offer them with lots of planning, by enabling neighborhood scale building decarbonization. And we are also going to be making sure that people are not paying more than 6% of their income for energy. So this is a really important transition bill to make sure that we're planning for the transition. The transition is equitable and orderly, and we have a way to transition our neighborhoods off of gas. And then finally, we need an incredible amount of funding to make sure that this transition is equitable and that everybody can afford to electrify and weatherize. So we're pushing for 3 different pieces of funding in the state budget. One is a Green Affordable Pre-Electrification Fund, or GAP fund, to enable people to make the improvements in their homes, like that lead and mold and asbestos remediation, the electrical upgrades, all the stuff that people need in order to weatherize and electrify. We want to make sure that is funded. We're going to be calling for more support to the regional clean energy hubs, which are launching all across the state right now. We want to make sure that those hubs have the funding they need to handhold people through and find all of those incentives and financing and support to make this transition possible. And we also want to fund 0 interest and low interest loans so that this transition is affordable and people can get the upfront money needed to buy heat pumps and induction stoves and electric dryers and electric water heaters. So that is our package that we're going to be pushing in 2023, and we really hope that all of you will push with us. Next slide, please. Just a quick note on the timeline for how the legislative session works. So our legislative session in New York is pretty short. It starts in January and it ends at the beginning of June. So we have only a few months to get this package done. And we're already off to the races with the governor's state of the state. That's what kind of kicks off the agenda. The next thing that's going to happen, probably by February 1st, is the governor is going to release her executive budget. So between now and February 1st, we're going to be calling on the governor to include all of these things that she talked about in her state of the state and the things that she didn't talk about, but that we know are needed to get those into the executive budget. After that, both the Assembly and the Senate will release their versions of the budget. And we need to get all of our agenda into those versions of the budget as well. And then there will be a big negotiation among the governor and the Senate in the Assembly to finalize the budget by April 1st. So the budget will include a lot of stuff about money, but the budget also often includes policies that don't have a fiscal impact, but are important to get done early in the session. So we're asking for our entire agenda to get folded into the budget, the funding pieces and the policy pieces, and get done by April 1st. And then anything that does not make it into the budget will be pushing between when the budget gets finalized in early April until the end of the session on June 8th. And so, as you can see, we have a big agenda and a lot of milestones to get through this session to escalate our power, push our movement forward, push our legislators, push the governor to get this package done. Next slide. And so our strategy for doing that is first putting together this comprehensive package, which we've done with all the pieces, and asking our legislators and our governor to include these bills and the funding in the budget. We're going to be ramping up our lobbying and having people all over the state talking to their elected officials, and many of us gathering together in Albany to talk to our elected officials and show the big broad support for these bills on January 24th in Albany. And then beyond that, ongoing in-district regional lobbying visits, and probably more visits to Albany as the session goes forward. We also are working on a big comms push through social media, op-eds, letters to the editor. We've had a lot of op-eds and LTEs published over the last couple of months, thanks to the amazing comms team. And we're going to be asking all of you to participate in this and be sharing updates and calls for action and pushes on legislators through social media and letters to the editor, and joining us in press conferences to call for these bills and this funding. And then finally, we need to bring more people into this movement. So we have 117 folks on this call. We have thousands of folks across the state. We have hundreds of organizations. But this is a big agenda, and we are facing ongoing disinformation campaigns and pushback from the fossil fuel industry. So we need to get bigger and louder than the fossil fuel industry that is fighting for its life right now to keep its infrastructure and keep its toxic gas and other fossil fuels flowing. So we need to just, reach out to our neighbors and our friends, people that we know are concerned about climate, concerned about health, concerned about energy affordability, and bring people into this movement, invite them to join us on these calls, invite them to join visits with legislators, invite them to call their legislators, etc. So with that, I will pass it off to Alex.
Great. Hi, great to have everyone on the call. Really exciting to have over 100 people here. I'm Alex Beecham. I'm the Northeast Region Director at Food and Water Watch. Really excited for this Kick Out Fossil Fuels action. So I'm going to talk a little bit about logistics for the day, what you can do, what you can do to help us recruit, and we'll kind of go through there. So if you're on this call and for some reason aren't signed up for the Kick Out Fossil Fuels rally, you should sign up right now. Very easy to do. The link is right here, bit.ly/kickoutfossilfuels. If someone could put that in the chat, that would be helpful too. Come to that, invite your friends to that. I'm sure some of you aren't signed up yet. You should sign up. Next, invite 3 friends to come. And also you can join us to phone bank and recruit folks as well. So we're hosting a bunch of phone bank shifts at Food and Water Watch. The link, I think Eric or someone maybe just put it in the chat, but it is on number 2 there. And if someone could link it, that'd be really helpful. Whole bunch of shifts. There's daytime shifts, evening shifts. Calling through our members. Our members are great. Really, 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 I can't stress this enough. Really easy phone banking. And it will get us a lot more people there, more importantly, than how easy it is. So those are what you should do before the event. Sign up, invite other people to sign up, and phone bank with us to get even more people to sign up. Third, when you come, prep to deal with your own lunch. We're going to have some light food, bagels and stuff in the morning, but lunch won't be provided. So either pack a lunch or you can plan to buy it. There's a bunch of stuff in the concourse. There's also sadly, there is only a Dunkin' Donuts within security. So just prep for that. But either pack your lunch or plan to buy it. We're meeting 11 to 11:30, most of us, at the 3rd floor terrace in the LOB. LOB stands for the Legislative Office Building. So there'll be a lot of people there to help direct you. Albany can be confusing, but the Legislative Office Building is like the big building that has all the offices for all the legislators. And it's sort of attached to the Capitol. It's a separate building, but you don't actually have to walk outside. So we'll have a space reserved in the 3rd floor where you can gather, register, leave coats, etc. So that should be really, really great. If you're from the area, if you live near Albany and think, I could lobby before 11 o'clock, that's awesome. You can do that. There will be people to help and to set you up with lobby meetings early that morning. So if you have the ability to get there earlier, you can arrive at 9, start meetings there, and there'll be kind of a whole local Capital Region team thing happening. Can we go to the next slide? Cool. So there's a lot of text on here, but I just want to run through the agenda for the day, so people have a sense of sort of the flow of the day. So as I just mentioned, early in the morning, Albany folks will meet at the lobby registration table. Other folks will meet who are coming on buses or coming from afar, driving yourselves, either 11, 11:30. So that's kind of set up registration time. There also is a Zoom component to this. So there are some folks who can't join in person. That is cool. There's actually the ability to do Zoom lobby meetings, so you can attend that. Totally understand if you cannot be there. I would say if you can, there is a big difference, and it is helpful for us to have as big a crowd in person as we can have. But if you can't make it for whatever reason and could join Zoom lobby meetings, there's an option for that as well, and you'll see it on the registration page. So that's all day, 9 to 4:30. Not that you have to do it all day, but there's stuff scheduled all day. For people coming from where I live in Brooklyn or elsewhere, either on buses or driving yourselves or carpooling, again, meeting 11, 11:30, that same spot in the Legislative Office Building. At noon, after we've kind of gone through all that registration stuff and people have gotten settled, we're going to have a really big rally and news conference at this big, dramatic, sort of MC Escher looking thing called the $1 Million Staircase in the Capitol. It's confusing to figure out how to get there. Honestly, the best way to describe it is that you should ask someone when you are there where it is, and they will tell you, and that's the easiest way to find it. But it'll be really cool. It's like a dramatic looking visual. It'll be really exciting. A bunch of legislators speak, other great speakers. So that's like the big kind of movement part of the big sort of show of power of the day. And then from there, we break up into groups, which you'll be divided up into, and meet with legislators or senior staff from like 1 to 3:30. So there's a whole kind of team in the coalition setting up lobby meetings to kind of make the most of everybody's time. To give you a sense of the scale, I mean, we're talking like 50 to 60 lobby meetings that we could do in a single day. That's really, really hard to do in a normal day. So being able to maximize that time really matters. And people in Albany understand that it's hard to get up there, and it just matters being there in person. So yeah, should be really great. And then if you have time, I know some folks might be running to buses or whatever, have to get out of there for whatever reason. There's going to be a delivery and an electric slide dance party that thankfully I'm not in charge of, but someone who is better at dancing than me is. That's at 3:30. The war room is on the second floor near the governor's office. And yeah, so that's like a sort of flow of the day. Buses, we're going to try to like head to buses at 3:30, actually leave at 4. There was a nice photo of, yeah, we can go to the next slide. That's great. So here's what lobbying could look like. You meet with your nice, friendly elected official. We can go to the next thing and have a couple lobby tips that we can run through quickly because I'm worried about the time. So key targets for us, Governor Hochul, didn't do exactly what we wanted, but put a lot of this stuff in the budget, as we heard earlier in this call. In some ways, it now is up to leadership, meaning Speaker Hasty and Majority Leader Stewart Cousins. For us, that doesn't mean like you just direct everything at those two people, but both of them are responsive to their conferences, right? So if we can get enough elected officials on each bill and then get enough of them to be real champions for it and say, look, we have to bring this to the floor, we have to pass it, that really, really matters. And I think is the main way we break through to leadership. There's the key committees here. So energy, incon, housing, health, and rules. Different bills, different ways that we'll get it through committee, but those are the top ones for this kind of package. The caucus, the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus, really, really important for lots of reasons, but really important to moving any of this stuff. So worth keeping that in mind. And really, we're largely talking about Democrats here, right? Not because this is a partisan thing necessarily, but that's who runs the thing, right? There's a super majority in both houses. So yeah, we're largely talking about that. And frankly, it'd be awesome if Republicans could get on these bills. They almost certainly won't on any of these. So it really is about moving that side of the aisle. And then we have here the fossil fuel industry's targeted advertising in the Hudson Valley, Westchester, Western New York. I think Assemblywoman Fahey might have mentioned this, but there is a deluge of money from the fossil fuel industry coming on fossil fuel stuff in general, on gas stoves in particular, and here in New York on these bills in particular. So that is coming. We're not going to raise enough money as a movement to overcome that, right? What we're going to do is fight back with people power, and that's why we're doing big actions like the 24th. We can go to the next slide. So I'll be really quick, do's and don'ts. If you haven't lobbied before, it can be intimidating. Just don't worry about it, is the main thing. Like, they're just people. Most of the legislators know less about these bills than you will after reading like a short fact sheet. So keep that in mind. Here's some quick do's. Be on time. Really important, especially as you're like, if you're late a little bit to one meeting and you have 5 meetings after it, or 4 meetings, whatever the case, it obviously snowballs. Be open-minded, try to be concise. These are really short meetings. It's like half an hour at the max, and there's a lot of people with you. Be concise. Practice your micro story. I think Kim is going to go over that in the next slides. And research the legislator beforehand. So we'll divide folks up into teams. You should have some ability to figure out like where this person is from, what do they care about, et cetera. And then make the ask. There should be a clear ask in every meeting. Support the bills. If you're not on them, co-sponsor them. If you are on them, fight to get them in the budget. A couple don'ts, really easy. Don't make stuff up. It can be tempting because people want to have an answer. If someone asks you and you don't know the answer and no one in the group knows the answer, totally fine to say, I don't know, we will get back to you. That's not like that happens a lot in like professional lobby meetings of people who just do this as a career, not everybody knows everything off the top of their head. It's way, way better to say get back to you than to say something that is false. So pretty obvious, but do that. Don't get defensive. Try not to dominate the conversation. A lot of people in all these meetings, as I mentioned, and don't get off track. We all care about a lot of stuff in Albany. This day is about these bills. We're all organizing with that in mind. Everyone else in your group is organizing with that in mind. Don't go off to your pet issue and kind of derail the meeting. So that I think is it. And with that, I'll pass it back to Kim.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So let's practice. So what's really important is building your story. It's so important that you know like what you are doing there and you have that in your heart, because you're just talking to people. It's not like you don't have to be nervous about this. These are people that basically we elected, we hired to do the work for us. So telling them, you know, why you need them to pass these bills, it always helps when you tell a personal story, because it makes that ask so much more meaningful. And so I came up with, these are all like, you know, totally stock photos. I have no idea who this person is, but I just wanted to give you an example of what we're going to ask you guys now to write in the chat. So this person here, she's just like, hi, I'm Tanya. I'm representing 14 small farm businesses from Fayetteville today, and climate change is harming my family and other farm co-ops. I want to make sure you take climate action seriously so we can have a strong New York State business. So it's basically, who are you? Who do you represent? And why is this important to you personally? And if you guys could all take a minute and just jot some of that down in the chat. I always find it helpful to do it myself and like write it out. Even though I think I know all this stuff, it's always good to just like get it in your muscle memory, get it in your system. I'm going to show you a couple more other examples. Hello, Senator. My name is Laurel, and me and my husband are suffering with COPD because of a fracked gas power plant that was built near our home in Dover. We need your help to pass this package of bills so my daughter and her child won't develop respiratory disease too. So like that is sort of like a nice in to have a real-time conversation and make these bills really real instead of just, you know, type on paper. We really want people to see the human story behind why these bills are important to us, and we want our legislators to see us as New Yorkers that care and that want to look out for our future. And here's a final one, just to give you some flavor and spice on how you can build your story. Assembly member, thank you for meeting with me. My name's Fernando, and me and my wife just had our first child. We really need funding to make sure our baby is kept healthy, dry, and warm in the winter, since we both grew up in lead-filled, drafty homes in the Bronx. Please pass the Energy Efficiency, Equity, and Jobs Act. That is one of the bills in the package, but it's always good to, if one of them really speaks to you, and passing these bills will change your life or change your community's life or change who you represent life, like definitely let them know. So I'm really excited to see people start putting their stories, their micro stories in the chat. Regina, I think everybody has a story. You could just say, you know, I can't tell them why are you here at this, even this event? Like, why do you care about this climate legislation? You know, who you are. Everybody on this call is a super interesting person, and you all have a story. You all have something that you can bring from your heart and your life. And the more personal that you make this meeting, the more comfortable you're going to be, and the happier you're going to feel, the more successful it will be. If you really let the legislator know that you're a real person and you are just there saying like what you want and why you want it. So for instance, I would probably say like, hi, Senator, my name is Kim Frachek. I am the director of Sane Energy Project, and you know, we represent about 16,000 people across New York State. But I also grew up in Pennsylvania, and people that I know can't bathe in the water or drink their water because of the fracking industry. And right now, a massive pipeline is being built a quarter mile away from my mom's house. So, and that has poisoned the drinking water reservoir I grew up on. So this climate legislation is so important so we can stop the fracking industry that has really harmed my family and my friends. So that's like something that I would say. I would tell them my personal story, where I'm from, why I do this work, and I happen to work for an organization that represents a number of people. But if you don't, you just say like, I live in a community, and I know my neighbors feel the same way as me. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to just keep writing in the chat. Yes, and I just got a question from someone that I dearly love, Margaret, asking, can we talk about our children and our grandchildren? Yes, by all means, talk about people people who are your family. You could talk about your fears, or you could talk about, like what you really want to see your future look like. So I really look forward to reading your micro stories and being in meetings with some of you on the 24th. I can't wait to see you all in Albany. So I'm just going to run through our to-do list, and if some of my wonderful colleagues could also make sure that the links are again in the chat, and everybody, don't worry, we'll make sure you get all these links and get signed up and everything. Sign up for this day, for January 24th. We're going to have an awesome rally. We're going to lobby, and if you haven't lobbied before, don't worry, you're going to be on a team of people that you won't be alone. So definitely RSVP for the 24th. Figure out your transportation. We are providing lots of transportation, or you can carpool, and help phone bank and recruit. Food and Water Watch is hosting a phone banking day to get more people into our awesome movement. So the more we build political power, the better we're going to be and the more successful we'll be. We are also going to have another one of these like powerful follow-up meetings after our lobby day on February 9th. So we want to, because like this is just the beginning of our work, right? For this session, we're building off of what we did last year. We want to move forward into this session and just keep in lockstep with each other as we go through this session. So we're going to meet back here on February 9th. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in about a month. And if you want to be on a lobby team, definitely sign up at bit.ly RHN sign up, and we'll make sure that you get put on a lobby team with folks that live around you or might be in or near your district, so you can make new friends and also meet new legislators. And that's about it. Thank you for attending. We're gonna kick fossil fuels out of buildings, and I look forward to kicking the fossil fuel butt with y'all.